Okay, I think we will begin. We are at the top of the hour. My name is Blair Dorr, and I am from Headed To, the technology partner that powers the Pennsylvania Career Zone. A special thank you to everyone who is joining us live today. For those of you who will be watching this webinar via recording, thank you. And just a reminder, everyone who signed up for the webinar today will receive the recording of it. So if you have to duck out early, that's totally fine. If you have questions, please ask them via the chat window, and we will come to those at the end of the presentation today. Hopefully we'll be able to do this in about 45 minutes. The presentation is going to be a combination of a few slides and then mostly a demo. And we're going to be demoing both the state-sponsored system and the upgraded version of the Pennsylvania Career Zone. All right, jumping right in. So let's start with our agenda. The first thing we're going to do today is go through some career literacy facts, stats, and standards. We'll talk about the state-sponsored Pennsylvania Career Zone and the elements of that. We'll do a demo of Up the Ladder, which is the part of the Pennsylvania Career Zone that's designed for younger students, elementary level. We'll talk about free educator accounts. We'll look at the Career Zone upgrade. We'll show within that upgrade some of the reasons to consider it. The lesson plans that we have available, evidence storage, we'll show some of the reports that are there, single sign-on, et cetera. We'll also give you a lens into our local opportunities network and what that is, but it's a system designed to make work-based learning coordination a lot easier. And then we'll talk about pricing. All right, so that's a little bit of what we'll do today. And let's jump into why we're all here. Career literacy does matter more than ever. As many of us know, 2 of 3 individuals go to college, but nearly 15% of those will not complete college. We also know that student debt is at unprecedented levels, and part of the reason why is because many students are being driven to four-year universities without really knowing their purpose, why they're going there, and what they're trying to get out of it. The goal of the Pennsylvania Career Zone is to help individuals better understand themselves and make career choices that are going to be right for them, and then in turn figure out what education is going to best serve that career choice and the direction that they're going. But there's also a practical reason why a lot of us are here today. State standards have evolved quite a bit in Pennsylvania. We need a system in Pennsylvania that can generate career evidence now. It's about 2 artifacts a year, according to the standards. And one of the requirements that we all have is to be able to store it for years to come. So if a student generates evidence in 6th grade, that evidence is available years later. We also need reports that make it easy for us as administrators to see who's completed what and who may still have gaps in terms of evidence creation. And last, I think an added bonus, and that's what we're trying to do here with the Pennsylvania Career Zone, is to give you standard aligned lessons that make it really easy to standardize your approach and generate career evidence, especially if you're in a jam and it's getting to the end of the year and you're not sure you have everything that you need. So one of the big questions that people will have today is, well, what's the difference between the state-sponsored version of the Pennsylvania Career Zone and the annual upgrade, which does have a fee? Well, let's start with the state-sponsored. The first thing to say about that is that it is totally free. Individuals can create an account on the Pennsylvania Career Zone. That's pacareerzone.org, totally for free. Teachers can actually get a free educator account and manage up to 50 students per educator. There's all the access to Up the Ladder for elementary, all the self-assessments, the career database, the basic reporting, all of that is within the state-sponsored site. So the bottom line is there's a lot of activities that individuals can do that would ultimately generate evidence within the state-sponsored site, and you won't have to pay anything for it. Where we go into the upgrade is around the idea of administration and reporting and getting a lens into what people are doing. So there are a number of features of the upgrade, and we'll talk about those today through the demo. It's easier sometimes, I think, to show versus tell. But you're going to have your own Career Zone URL, so that'll be localized to your school or district. You'll have localized data, so that can be at a county level or at a sort of a DMA level. Single sign-on, which allows you to ignore the headache of remembering usernames and passwords and have individuals sign in with Google or Microsoft or Clever. So we do make that available to subscribers. We have unlimited educator accounts within an individual system, unlimited administrators. Then we've got lesson plans that are made available to you to generate that evidence, advanced reporting, File management. That actually ended up being a very big one for our subscribing districts this year. We have a system within the upgraded version of the CareerZone that allows students to store files, career-related files, inside the system, and for teachers to do it on their behalf. So as long as it's career-related, you can save it, and we don't put a limit on the storage there. We also make surveys available, the local opportunities network, and then lastly, account management and a 1 hour included onboarding PD to make sure that everyone in your program is ramped up and knows how to use the Pennsylvania CareerZone. So that's an overview, but like I said, we're going to go into it in more detail through the demo itself. All right, so let's jump out and actually show you what we're talking about here. And I will open up the CareerZone. So the first thing that we're looking at on the screen right now is the state-sponsored version of the Pennsylvania CareerZone. And like I said, the URL is www.pacareerzone.org. And just to give you a little orientation as to what's going on here, when the student gets to this site for the very first time, they are going to want to click either on Sign In or their Career Hub. And if they go to the Career Hub and they don't yet have an account, they'll be asked to sign in and create an account. And if you aren't on mute, please go on mute just to avoid the feedback. All right, so when they get here, they're going to create an account. They'll have that account. And one of the really nice things about the Pennsylvania CareerZone is a student's account is free. And it stays with them even after they've left school. So if they're in their mid-20s and they've maybe made one career choice that wasn't perfect, but they want to come back to the system and sort of figure out, well, what's another direction they could go, they'll be able to do that. This is not a system that shuts down on them just because they've left school, and they'll always have access and it'll always be free to them. So we absolutely encourage every student who goes to the Pennsylvania CareerZone to create their account. Now, once they've created an account and they've signed in, they're going to have the ability to do a number of self-assessments within Discover Possibilities. The two top self-assessments everyone on the call should know are our budgeting tool and our interest profiler. We put those two first for a reason, and that's because they are some of our most popular. Let's start with actually the interest profiler. I'm going to open that up just to show you what it looks like. The interest profiler has a 30-question version and a 60-question version. And what you should know is that the 60-question version is statistically a little more accurate than the 30-question version, but the 30-question version is pretty accurate too. For those of you who remember the old Pennsylvania CareerZone system, and we've been doing this in Pennsylvania for a number of years now, we do have access to the old 180-question version here. But we want to point out that that is definitely a legacy version of this survey and is not significantly more accurate than the 60-question version. So we definitely would encourage you to use the 60-question version if you're looking for a longer survey. 30-question is great. Students can move through that fairly quickly, and it's going to ask them a number of questions about different tasks that they might do and ask for their reaction. We're not going to go through the whole interest profiler today, but you can give this a try on your own to get an idea of what's going on. Going back to Discover Possibilities, there's a great budgeting tool, an introduction to financial literacy. We ask that students go to the Choose Your Lifestyle option here, where they budget how much money they'll need. And the reason why is you may find a lot of your students aren't exactly sure what they want to do, but they do know how they want to live. And so when you go into this tool, you're going to be asked from the very beginning some questions about the lifestyle you plan to live. For instance, what county are you going to live in? And once you select the county, well, what are your plans for how you're going to live? Are you going to rent an apartment, buy a place of your own, live with your family or friends? And you're going to move through these decisions, almost like a TurboTax or something. And ultimately, you're going to ladder up to a monthly budget. With that, the student's going to find out how much money they need to make to live the lifestyle that they're imagining for themselves. It can be a great classroom discussion about financial literacy and about budgeting in the first place. So you'll have some time to take a look at that on your own, but I did want to just give you an overview of what you're going to find inside the system. Explore Pathways is where students will find all of the career clusters that we make available inside the system. If you open up any of these, you're going to get a higher level view of the cluster, the annual openings, the recent graduates in the state, the average wage. Okay, and then you're also going to be able to see highest paying, fastest growing, most employed. So if you want to actually reorder this list according to fastest growing, all you have to do is press the button and it'll reorder the list according to these different parameters. Okay, so that gives you a view at a higher cluster level about these individual careers. And if you click on one of these occupations, you're going to see our standard occupation profile. The occupation profile is going to default to showing individuals what the average salary, annual openings, and job preparation that's required is in Pennsylvania. And you're going to see some of those numbers. Those students can compare by clicking on the state and selecting, say, another state and seeing what the comparison looks like. So that's an option. As they scroll down, they'll learn more about the job, what it does, the interests, the work values, etc. So it's a very robust tool. And what you should know is that the Pennsylvania Career Zone is plugged into federal data sources. We use ONET for the self-assessments, and we also have statistics from the Department of Labor. So everything that's being pulled in is updated at that central federal level and is accurate. So just want you to know that we're not kind of cooking up these numbers. They're coming from federal sources. The only downside of that is that they are updated at the same rate that the federal government updates those things. So that's not going to happen during a shutdown, but hopefully it will be happening at more frequency now that we're leaving that. So here we are. Let's go back into the homepage and take a look at some other options that you have. I want to point out for teachers when you get here, the Educator's Corner is a very helpful resource. If you click on that, what you're going to see is a toolkit. You're going to see user's guides, links to video tutorials, more resources. So if you're trying to kind of get ramped up on what's going on inside the Career Zone, you can do so here. And you can also sign up for a free educator account. As I mentioned before, the free educator account allows you to manage up to 50 students. So that's going to allow you to see their activity inside the system, assign them lessons that you create, right? And so you're going to have a little bit of a window into what your students are doing with that free educator account. And since it's free, there's really no reason not to sign up for that today. It's a very useful tool. I'm going to talk more about the actual upgrade, but that's just a great place to start. Another thing you'll see is there is a link to Up the Ladder here. And Up the Ladder, as I mentioned before, is the system that we made for elementary students. It was designed in Pennsylvania for Pennsylvania, so it's homegrown, and it's you are the only state currently that is using it across the state. So it's really exciting for Pennsylvania to be kind of the first movers on this great tool that we developed in partnership with the Department of Education. If you open up this tool, you're going to get an idea of what Up the Ladder looks like. I'll click Give It a Try, and it's going to ask me to log in. I'm going to log in as one of our dummy demo accounts, and we're going to be using these demo accounts today during our demonstration, so you can see a little bit of what's going on. Now, when I sign in as a student, let me close out that. All right. When I sign in as a student, I'm going to be asked to start a new profile. And the profile here is going to first introduce me to the tool and what's going on. What you can't hear, because we're on the webinar now, is that Kathy is going to be reading out the instructions to us. So it's not required for the individual, the student, to know how to read. It'll all be read out to them, the instructions, as they go through the system. It's going to tell them basically the rules of the game. And as a teacher, you should know the real bottom line of this game is the more exploration you do inside the system, the more kind of points you get or badges, and the more you're going to be promoted. All right, so we move through, we create our avatar. We can actually end up with a badge. That's my badge right there. And then I'm going to click, continue, and it's going to tell me what we're going to do inside the system. Let's get started. So I have a lot of options. I can just start exploring by career cluster. I can click random cluster and it will select one for me to explore. Or as a teacher, you may want to guide students through an introduction to an interest profiler. So this is a different kind of interest profiler in Up the Ladder. This one is going to be more visual for students, where they're going to compare two different types of occupations and which one looks more interesting, like building, fixing things, or working in a lab, right? So, and then they're going to move on and compare again. Oh yeah, I still think working in labs right for me. Oh, teaching is better than that. And then so on and so forth. So this is basically how the interest profiler works within the system. One thing to point out, just kind of a preview of the upgrade, is this is evidence that we're generating here. If a student completes this interest activity, this is an interest profiler for a third grader. And we'll save it as such, and it will be recorded as evidence within the system. So that's just something to be aware of. As the student is promoted, they are going to get more options of different things they can do inside the system. And if you're wondering how to get promoted, they are able to click the ladder here, and it will tell them their progress and what they might need to do to continue to make more progress. They need to complete that interest activity, view 5 pathways, like 3. So right now we're in the students, we call it their backpack, and that tells them what they need to do to continue to advance. It'll also show them what they've explored, and it gives them space to write thoughts and create a notebook, etc. All right, and if you want to get to that, another way to get to that is to click down here, and it will show you some of what they've liked inside the system as well. So just some things to be aware of. And if you want to exit the game, that's also, there's a couple ways to exit the game, but you'll see in the lower left that you can exit the game here. Another thing that I really like about this system for younger students is that the videos are a little different than the videos in the regular Pennsylvania CareerZone. If we open these up, these are generally animated videos. They're usually very short, about 30 to 45 seconds, and they're going to give that student a very basic understanding of what's going on inside that career cluster. So really great videos, and they get a badge every time they watch a video, or if they look at the activities of the individual occupation and they review those, they get badges, and that's really fun for the students to work their way through the system. All right, so we spent a little bit of time showing you up the ladder for grades 3 through 5. And as I mentioned, within this tool itself, you can generate evidence for grades 3 through 5 through exploration, through the activities such as the budgeting tool that's in here as well, the presentation tool that's in here, the interest profiler, etc. And then just the basic exploration. All right, so let's leave the game. I've given you an idea of what's going on there inside of up the ladder. And yes, I do really want to exit the game, get a prompt, and I'm going to go back to the home page. All right, so here we are, back where we were before. And again, this is the 3 sort of pathways within the system. Now I've logged in, and one thing you'll see is now that I've logged in, I have this Career Hub page. Now there's not much on it because this is a demo user that we haven't done much work on yet. But based off the exploration that I would do within the system, it's going to give me other options of things to look at. It's going to save the journals that I create within the system. If I upgrade in the system, if my district or school does, then I'll have my files listed here, right? It'll also show me my recently liked items. Now, in this case, for this individual, we have done a budget. So if we want to go back and look at that budget, I could click on budget and actually review the budget that I already started on 2-4, all right? Or I can start a new one. So that's some of the things you can do. But what you should know is that the Career Hub is really sort of that central place for students to not just see the activity they've done in the past, but also to get suggestions of additional activity they might do in the future. So that's really important to point out about the CareerZone. This can be something that is completely self-directed, where you tell a student to spend time in it, explore, do certain activities, or it can be something that's part of a classroom activity. That's really up to you. We try to make navigating the system as easy as possible for individuals, and I think you'll find as you try it yourself that it is fairly easy to navigate, and you learn a lot about yourself when you do it. All right, so let's continue into the next part of our demonstration today, which is to talk a little bit about the upgrade and what we're going to try to do here and what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to actually move out of, let's go to the local.pa, I'm going to move out of the state-sponsored version, and it's going to pull up a login here. And our local.pacareerzone.org site is our demo site. And it's important for me to point out, anyone on this call or watching this recording later, you are able to get a demo site, get demo access to this site if you email sales@headed2.com. We'll have that information later on. So if you'd like to kind of play with this yourself, similar to what we're doing here in the webinar, you are more than welcome to do it. And I think that can be a great way to figure out sort of what's going on with the upgrade. So what I'm going to do first is just show you that when we log in as an admin here inside the upgraded site, For one thing, it says Pennsylvania Career Zone, and it says for local pathways. Well, this is actually just a demo site, but it would have the name of your school or district there, and you would have your own unique URL. The other thing to point out is that if you do the upgrade, you'll have single sign-on capability. So you'll be able to sign in with Google or Clever or Microsoft 365, whatever you prefer. We can talk about kind of the options there. All right. Now, there's not a whole lot else that's different from the standpoint of the student when they look at the site inside the upgrade, but from the standpoint of the teacher or administrator, there is something a little different. For one thing, you see a manage tab here. And Stella is our mock teacher here, and she's an admin, so she's able to see all of the system activity that happens within her school or district. She's also able to do something called manage local opportunities, which we'll talk about later. She can create surveys within the system, or she can look at her users who are inside the system. Now, remember something, if you sign up for a demo account, we reserve the right to we're not going to show all the information that you've done within the system, but you might see your name here. So we're not going to, there's no personal identifiable information here other than your name, but we do like to use this site to show off, well, such and such did the interest profiler, and this is what it looks like. So you may see some recognizable names as you go through here. Now, as I look at this, this is my class list, and this is a very important dashboard for the teacher. I get to default to all the students who are in my system, or I can actually look up a group. So if I type in webinar group, I've created a small group of students here, 3 students, who are in my webinar group. Now, if I want to create a group, there's a couple ways to do it. I don't want to go through every single detail, but you can easily just add a person to a group by typing in a group name. Right here, webinar group 2, and then click there, and now this student is part of webinar group 2. So that's one way to add a student to a group. Very basic, very simple. Another way to do it is to import users and then go to group assignments. So that's something you'll be able to do, but we won't go into all of those details. But the nice thing about using groups is that you can run a report just on that group of students, all right? And so if you've got students within a cohort or under a certain teacher, you can do that and run a report on just, say, that individual teacher to see how that group of students is doing. We've got a couple of other default filters, such as graduation year or school, so that's possible too, and you don't even have to create a group there. That happens automatically. Or you can, like I said, create your own group. Now, if I run a report, I'm going to give you a preview, a little bit of what this looks like. I'm going to go to my dashboard report, and this is going to give me an idea for these 3 students who are in this little group. What have they done inside the system? Now, each of these is an abbreviation for an activity in the system. IP is the interest profiler, WIP is the work importance profiler, then you've got the skills profiler, so on and so forth, okay? The green dots signify that that activity within the Pennsylvania Career Zone has been completed. So if we want to export this, and we can export up here using Excel's CSV, or we can also download the file, we can run a report to figure out, okay, how many students within this group or this graduation year have 2 green dots or 2 pieces of evidence. And we would know right there, okay, we're all set. We've got all the evidence we need, all right? So you've got these kind of high-level reports that are exportable so you can figure out what people have done. Now, in some cases, in the case of plans, for instance, there's the ability to create more than one. So it's not just a question of having finished the interest profiler, but maybe you've done 10 plans or 10 journals. There'll be a number inside the green dot indicating how many of those particular items have been done. All right. The other thing to point out about the dashboard report is that it will show you that the student has begun up the ladder, but there is actually a separate up the ladder report that goes into more detail about all the activities within up the ladder for your students who are grades 3 through 5. I'll show you where you'd find that. You click on Run a Report, and there you'd see the up the ladder report. All right. So really, when you think about reporting and you think about the evidence standards in Pennsylvania, there's really kind of 2 things that you're going to want. One is to be able to measure the activities that people have done inside the Pennsylvania Career Zone. And if you want to do that, you click Run a Report, you look at Dashboard Report, and you can go into greater detail with any of these other reports, but that'll give you that high-level vision of what's going on. But there's something else. A lot of you have sort of more advanced career literacy programs, and you know a lot about curriculum, and you've already done your own, and so you've got students doing stuff outside of the Pennsylvania Career Zone that you're going to use or want to use as evidence. All right, so that's where the file management system comes in and can be really, really helpful. Now remember, right now I am the teacher, I'm Stella, and I'm looking at my 3 students. Now Stella just so happens to have career evidence from these 3 students that she wants to upload into the system. She's going to click Actions, she's going to click Manage Files, all right? And wait, I want to remember what student I just opened up. I opened up Forever. Okay, so let's do that and do Manage Files, and then I'm going to choose my file. I'm going to find the one that I want to upload right here. All right, she wrote an essay called My Career Dream, and I'm going to say, okay, we're good. I've got that in there. But the one thing is that every one of my students has named this file, which is about their career goals, something a little different. And that's not super helpful from the standpoint of aggregating what's actually evidence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a tag. I could give it my own tag, such as career essay. That'd be one option, right? But I could also give it another tag, such as grade 9 evidence, all right? And then I click Close. I'm going to do the same now. Let's go to Quinn and do the same thing here. So Manage Files, find a file, and then upload Quinn's essay. And in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to tag it as grade 9 evidence. Close. And we're going to do one more. Manage Files for Dre, choose files. I've got the file here, up there. All right, let's upload it. Let's give it the tag again. All right. So remember, students can upload files themselves, but you also, as their educator, have the ability to do it on their behalf. A student cannot tag their own files. You have to tag their files for them. The other thing that's nice is once you've tagged the file for a student, Quinn, for instance, couldn't go in and delete that file. Once it's tagged, it's like frozen in time, all right? And you can't delete it. If you untag it, it can be deleted, all right? But when you tag it, that's you saying, hey, this is an important document. I can't have it deleted, and so it's gonna be saved. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I've entered in those 3 documents for those 3 students, and I'm going to run a tagging report. All right. I click on tagging report. I'm going to actually I want to just see grade 9. All right. I can untag all these other options if I want, just to see what I've got going on in here. And over here, grade 9. Oh, I did grade 9 instead of grade 9 evidence just because of how I typed it in. But you can see here that I've got 1 listed for these students and 1 under grade 9 just because I got a little too hasty in what I was selecting. But this basically will give you a report of your external evidence. All right. So the bottom line is you've got an ability to upload external career evidence or generate evidence inside the system. And then you've got 2 reports that you can run that are going to help you figure out in aggregate what you have. All right. So all of that is within the upgraded system. And as I said, it shouldn't be too difficult to figure out. And we as your account managers will help you figure it out if you're having any trouble. All right, so that's one of the most important features, honestly, is having the ability to do those things. Now, a couple other things I want to point out about the upgrade. One is that you have the ability to use lesson plans that are pre-populated. If you have a free educator account and you're coming into this, you won't see these lessons. But if I click on Manage Lessons, I will see a list of lessons here that start from grade 3 and then move up to this window of 7th grade to 11th grade. The reason we did that is because we have enough lessons in here for you to generate 2 pieces of evidence for each year, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and so on. But we didn't want to tell you which ones to use at what grade level. You have that choice. The only place where we were a little more directive was on the 8th grade plan, because in that case, there is a requirement in the state to build an individualized career plan, and we wanted to give you a lesson that would allow you to do that. Now, if I want to see what's going on inside the lesson, I could click the lesson and get a preview. This preview is what the student sees first. So this is lesson preview. It's going to give a description and tell you what's going on. It's telling you that you're going to build build a career plan. It's going to give you the tasks that are involved in doing so, right? And that's basically what the student is going to be navigated through when they get assigned this lesson. If you as an educator want to learn more about the lesson, you click on About this lesson and you could review there and go through and look at the lesson objective, the required materials, the resources, the activities, the outcomes, etc. It's all there, and it tells you how much evidence is generated for each individual lesson. Now, I might find as an educator that I like some of what the people have done and put in here at the CareerZone, but not everything. So what I might want to do is copy the lesson, and then once I've copied it, I'd have the ability to edit my copy and actually do my own version of a lesson that's in there. Okay, so those are some of the things that you'd be able to do. But as I said, all of these lessons that you have here are pre-populated and designed to give you evidence. And you can see the tasks here are basically aligned to the amount of evidence that each lesson plan is going to generate. The nice thing about this is when you use a lesson plan and you assign a lesson plan, every student that you have is seeing the same exact workflow and creating the same exact evidence, and you've got it pretty much standardized. And it's really easy for you to know that exactly what you're getting and what the students are completing. So it's really a fixed curriculum to move through. But like I said, a lot of people have already developed their own curriculum, and that may be less important to them, but we just wanted you to know that it's available. Now, if you want to assign one of these lessons, you're going to go back to that Manage Users tab. And within Manage Users, you're going to see this button under the blue box to assign the lesson. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my webinar group, which we were using before. And to this group, I'm going to assign a lesson, and I'm going to do my budgeting lesson, all right, by clicking the green little icon there. And it says, confirm you wish to assign this to those 3 selected users. Okay. All right. And now it's assigned that lesson to those 3 users. All right. So now they've all been assigned this lesson. Doesn't mean they've done it yet, but they've been assigned that lesson. Now, if I were to log out of my administrator account and log back in as one of those students, I'll show you where they're going to find that lesson. Okay, so you see it right here. Under plans, there's the lesson I was just assigned. The bar below it is gray, all right? There's nothing there because they haven't done the activity yet. The activity in this case was focused on budgeting, all right? So if they open that up, they're going to see the lesson that they were assigned. It's telling them exactly what they're going to do. And as they move through, when they complete an activity, they can click on the X to move it from not started to completed. And if they complete the budget, this X will automatically move to a green check mark. We also ask in this lesson that they write a short essay of reflection on the budget tool. They would write it here, and then they would move it from to started or completed, okay? So that's basically how they would update to tell the system that, hey, this lesson plan has been completed, and ultimately you'd be able to see what they've done, all right? So that's a little bit of what the student sees. Let's log out and log back in as our teacher. So now the next question that many of you may be thinking about is, all right, well, so I assigned that lesson and I want to know exactly what the outputs were. Like what did the student actually do inside of the CareerZone? Can I see like the results of their work? All right, so if I go to this student under actions and I click on view profile report, I will be able to see all the activity that individual student has done inside the system. And if they haven't done anything, you'll see that too. But it shows you the plans that they've been assigned. In this case, they were assigned the budgeting and career choice. And this student has actually completed their budget. Quinn has completed their budget, but they haven't started the essay. So I can see they're halfway done. They did the budget tool. Okay, great. And in another plan that we assigned in a different demo, they're in progress on the interest profiler. They haven't started the work importance profiler. And this actually has the data. So if you're looking for the actual piece of evidence of the budget tool and what the output was, here it is. It's inside the profile summary report, and they're able to use that. The other thing that you have is other actual pieces of evidence are the files that we've uploaded for that. So in other words, every student has this profile summary report where you're able to see the actual outputs and the actual files if ever there's a time that you need to generate these things for these people. Okay, so that's a little bit of what is going on there. Close out. We've talked about a lot of different things. The last thing I'll cover on the upgrade and what we're doing here is we've talked about assigning a lesson. In a similar way, we could send a message to all 3 of these students or all of our students. I click send a message, test message, and then here, hello there, and then send the message. And now all 3 of those students would receive the message that I just sent. One of the nice things that happens here is that they don't have to have this synced up to email or anything. They will see that message within the CareerZone the next time they log in. Hopefully this will happen as quickly as I just generated it, but let's see. Yeah, you see next to Quinn's name, he's got a little 1, tells you that he's got a message in there. You can open up the message, all right, see what's going on, and then reply if is needed, okay? So any message that you send is sent within the CareerZone and received within the CareerZone. All right, I'm gonna just take a quick pause and open up my chat window, hopefully, or try to open up my chat window. Because I was curious to see if there were any questions, but you know, if there are any questions right now, feel free to go off mute and ask a question if you've got one, because I can't see my chat window for some reason. All right, I will continue. Okay, so we've done a basic demo of the kind of core systems, the upgrade within you know, the CareerZone, generating activity within the CareerZone and creating evidence out of that activity, and then also uploading external activity to the system and having that as well. And that is kind of one of the key aspects of what's going on here. Within managed users, there are definitely some other things that you can do. When you're a subscriber, you can do bulk uploads of students. You don't have to do one at a time or manage or have students do that on their own. You're able to have them pre-uploaded to the system. And you can also pre-upload groups as well. So group creation does not need to be super manual and daunting. You can actually upload as many groups as you want and then manage the group by clicking on manage groups and take students out of a group, add, or delete a group altogether, right? So those are some of the options that you have with group creation. And we really encourage group creation just because it makes your reporting a little more granular and easier to understand. The other thing I'll say is when you're a subscribing school, you're going to have teachers who are signing on to your site. And when they sign in that very first time, whether it's with Google or with a password, they're going to default to a teacher. All right, to a student access. So instead of saying administrator, it's going to say student. The central administrator is going to have the ability to click actions, click edit user, and then change the access, right? So here is access. I would change from administrator to student or school administrator, which is another capability if you're inside a district, right? And that individual would be then turned into have only student access instead of administrator access. I'll switch it back now, but just something to show you is that you as the central administrator of the system will have the ability to kind of change access levels across the board. If you're just a manager and not an administrator, the big difference is you're not going to see all the system activity stuff or the data maintenance stuff. You're just going to see user management, manage users, manage lessons. All right, that's basically what you're going to see. All right. So where we're going to finish the demo of the upgrade is with the idea of our work-based learning program. And it's called Local Opportunities. You get a little idea of what's going on here, but not much. I'm going to show you a California site to give you an idea of what it looks like in its sort of full glory. But down here is a box that says Local Opportunities. And what we're trying to do here is make it easy for you to run a work-based learning program or give your students access to discovering things like job shadows, or if there's companies that are offering field trips to teachers and you want them to be aware that those are there, apprenticeships, all those kinds of things. You have the ability to kind of promote them yourself within the site. And this is an improvement over some central administrator keeping track of all this using an Excel spreadsheet. So let me show you a little bit of what this would look like using the Humboldt version, which is still the best in class that we see. It's in California, but it would work roughly the same. Their work-based learning program is called Education at Work. It's county-wide. So when you click on Education at Work, you see the profile that they've created in Humboldt County for their work-based learning program. It describes it. It gives partner companies and programs the ability to apply to be a part of this program. And then it also has a quick dashboard here for students who are doing work-based learning to record their participation, for educators or employers to do the same, to know that that student has completed that activity that's happening away from school. So you've got a lot of power to create these profiles exactly as you'd like them to appear. The thing that's nice for the individual student is that they're not relying as much on serendipity to discover the opportunities that are around them. If they click on View All, they can actually sub-segment all of these opportunities by the industry sector in California or cluster in Pennsylvania that they're looking at, the location, the type of involvement. They can do a filter to look at that. And then they can find the company or the program that is most interesting to them. And when they open up one of these, they'll see, I always like to use Laco because they've got a nice built out profile, a description of that company, the occupations that they employ, the industry sectors that they're aligned with, right? And location and any other information the company would want to provide, and that you as a school or district would approve them providing. That's ultimately up to you. The other thing that we really like, though, is what this bidirectional linkage is what we call it. If I click on accountants, say I was a student who had done my self-assessment, had discovered that accounting was the right occupation for me, it's what I really want to do, okay? And I'm looking through this. I've learned about it. I said, this is great. Well, where could I possibly learn about this? Or where would there be a work-based learning opportunity? If I click on companies, Laco Associates is going to be pulled in from that work-based learning system, from local opportunities. So I'll be able to click on that. And now I've gone from exploring at a high level and trying to understand different occupations at a high level to seeing a practical place where I could go and maybe try to get a summer job or try to do an internship or just maybe get some mentorship or meet somebody in that particular company. So it's taking it from that 30,000 foot view down to the real practical, what's next for me sort of level. All right, and that's the real beauty thing about this. The point I'll make is that the companies and you as a central program populate this, so it is completely determined at that sort of district level or even at the IU level what you're going to populate here. But then the students have really democratic access to all the opportunities. It's not just about having heard it from someone who heard it from someone that there is such and such an opportunity. It's actually promoted on your site. So that's a really nice added feature of the Pennsylvania Career Zone. It is relatively new. I mean, it's only really been around for a year, and we're seeing some people experiment with it, but we'd love to work with you. If it's something that sounds interesting to you and you want to work with us to build it out, we're happy to do that, okay? So where I'll finish is to give you an idea of some of the things that are kind of coming soon that we'll be hopefully demoing later in the spring. We're going to have an approval book. So what that's going to do is it's going to allow teachers ultimately to go through and look if they've assigned a lesson and they've assigned essays. They can basically say, yep, this essay is good enough to meet our personal standard for evidence versus not, and sort of send it back and ask the student to do again. So a little more control to review the activity that your student have done and not have it counted just because, say, words were entered into the field. Well, you actually want an essay entered in the field, for instance. We'll also be giving you access to historical assessments. Those will become more important in 5 years, for instance, because a student might have the interest profiler that they've completed when they were in 6th grade, but the results may not be as important as the results that they did when they did that same interest profiler in their sophomore year. And so we want to be able to have you save both as evidence, but also note that one was from 5 years ago and one was from the present moment. Okay, so that's something that'll be coming on the way. And the other thing we're going to be introducing is a a teacher certification pathway, which will allow teachers within a school or district to be certified in the Pennsylvania Career Zone, to kind of become experts, to be able to train others on it, and to make sure that they can facilitate really expert usage of the Career Zone. So that's some of what's coming. I will switch back to my presentation and finish mostly with the question of pricing and what we're doing this year. A lot of it's familiar. A lot of it is aligned to what we did last year, but I want to kind of run through what this grid is all about. So as we mentioned, there is the ability to get a free educator account. If you want to sign up for that after today's webinar, you go to pacareerzone.org/educators, and you'll see a button there to sign up for your free educator account. And with that, you can manage 50 students. You'll have one teacher have access. You won't have the other features, but you will be able to run some basic reporting, and you'll be able to get a view as to what your students are doing within an individual classroom. We've introduced another tier this year for smaller groups. So if you're just running a program within the school, there's only up to 200 students total. You want to have more than one teacher have access. But it's only 4 teachers. We're probably flexible in the number of teachers, but the students is up to 200. And in that case, what you would get is the curriculum that we showed for generating evidence. You'd have access to that local opportunities as well. We do that for some of the CTE programs around the state. We've had requests about wanting access to that, but they weren't quite ready to upgrade to the full local pathways upgrade. So for those of you for whom that's relevant, you can certainly reach out and email us at sales@headed2.com, and we can review the options there at that lower tier at $250. And then the main upgrade that we're talked about today is called Local Pathways. It's $1,000 for up to 350 students, $2.75 for each additional student. Larger districts should reach out because we do offer discounting for larger numbers of students. So don't be turned off by that number and seeing that it might be in $10,000, $15,000. We'll talk about rates and how we'd apply that. And the features, as we mentioned before, are pretty exciting. I mean, you've got the ability to manage the number of students that you reserve, unlimited administrator access, access to that curriculum, access to the work-based learning tool, all of that file management and tagging and advanced reporting. You've got the clever Google MS365 like single sign-on sync, and then you've got account management, and an hour of professional onboarding is included. Sorry for the typo there. So those are some of the options that you have within that upgrade. And so far this year, we found that people have been very happy with it. They've had some really novel approaches. We've seen the surveys used to generate evidence across some districts this year, which we weren't expecting, and that's really exciting. We're making some changes, already have made some changes to the surveys based on that. So we definitely encourage you to consider the Local Pathways upgrade and email us if you have questions about the pricing and how to make it work for your district. So to finish us up, sort of the why Career Zone, and we know that there's other providers out there, and we want to make sure that you kind of have in your head why Pennsylvania Career Zone makes a lot of sense. For one thing, it is a system that was designed for Pennsylvania and the state standards, including Up the Ladder, which was developed in partnership with the state of Pennsylvania. So it is really a homegrown approach to career readiness. All the stuff that we have around career artifacts and saving it and external tagging, all of that was developed with Pennsylvania in mind and based on feedback from educators like you. That's another point to make. This is a team that is very willing to make adjustments to the system based off the feedback of educators. We are not a big corporation. We're a small team that's really nimble and really enthusiastic about listening to what you all have to say. The next thing is we're pathway agnostic. We are not telling students that a 4-year college is the only option that's out there and that it's only all about that. We do make exploring those options possible within the Pennsylvania Career Zone, but our goal is to have students understand themselves, have some healthy exploration of a number of careers, and then determine based off of all of that what educational next step is right for them. Because we really believe that that's going to lead to longer-term happiness, less debt, and general happiness across the board from an educator point of view, that you're putting your students in the right position. Up the ladder is, like I said, homegrown. It's a program that is designed for elementary students, that's fun to use, that's intended to make learning about career literacy enjoyable for younger students, and has those elements such as, reading what's on the screen so the student doesn't have to read, to make it a little easier for you as a teacher to introduce this concept and to generate evidence at those grade levels, which can be kind of challenging. And then the last thing, this is always free for students. This is a system that as an individual, you can sign on and create an account and you'll have it for life, and we're not going to charge you for it. Okay, so if you go onto the Pennsylvania CareerZone for the first time in high school and that's when you learn about it, that's great. We want you to remember when you're in your 20s and you're maybe looking at a career switch or something like that, that this is a resource you can still come back to and you can kind of pick up right where you left off. So that's great from the standpoint of people who leave school, but it's also great from the standpoint of kids who transition from one district to another, because they don't lose their work. That work ports over to the new district and it stays with them. So just something that is very convenient about the CareerZone is it's easier to share from district to district to district, different student information, provided that student gives the approval, because all the data that lives here belongs ultimately to the student. That's the data belongs to, it's theirs. They can delete their account upon request whenever they want to. So we want you to know that this is a system, like I said, that we want to be free to those users and be useful to those users for a long time to come. So if you have questions or if you are interested in this upgrade, contact us at sales@headed2.com. I will give everyone another opportunity to ask questions. Remember to go off mute if you're asking a question. And yeah, that's basically our presentation for today.